On a sweltering March evening in 1955, the air in DeKalb, Texas, crackled with excitement. It was a night that would forever change the landscape of music. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a crowd gathered outside the local high school, eagerly awaiting the arrival of a young singer with a voice like no other, Elvis Presley. Little did they know, this was just the beginning of a wild ride that would shake the foundations of popular music. As the story goes, Elvis snuck into the high school locker room, lost in thought, while his friends Jimmy Day and Bill Black prepared for the show. Elvis, the king of rock and roll before he was even king, was distracted by the crowd outside and the allure of the stage. His mind wandered to the sound of Betty Amos, a local singer, drawing in the crowd with her energetic performance. Elvis, always the competitive spirit, was determined to outdo her. Meanwhile, Willie Cox, a local photographer, captured the essence of this pivotal moment. His pictures, taken in the locker room that fateful night, show Elvis, Jimmy Day on the horizontal steel guitar and Bill Black on bass, ready to take on the world. These images, courtesy of Willie, reveal the raw energy and camaraderie of a band on the cusp of greatness. As Elvis emerged from the locker room, he joined Betty on stage, and the crowd went wild. Willie, ever the shutterbug, snapped more pictures, documenting the birth of a legend. In those moments, no one could have predicted the seismic shift in music that Elvis would bring. The steel guitars, once a staple of country western bands, were about to take a backseat to the electric sound of rock and roll. As the night unfolded, Elvis and his band, the Blue Moon Boys, took the stage, and the crowd erupted. The air was thick with anticipation, and the music that flowed from their instruments was like nothing DeKalb had ever heard before. Elvis's voice, raw and powerful, soared through the night, while his moves on stage captivated the audience. But this was just the start of Elvis's journey. The next day, he and his band headed to College Station, Texas, for another show. It was there, amidst the bustling crowds and electric atmosphere, that Elvis would continue to hone his craft, drawing in fans and fellow musicians alike. As the music scene in the 1950s evolved, steel guitars, once a key component of country music, began to fade into the background. The rise of rock and roll, led by pioneers like Elvis, changed the face of music forever. The sound of electric guitars and driving rhythms captivated audiences, paving the way for a new era in popular music. That night in DeKalb, Elvis and his band set in motion a chain of events that would reshape the music world. The shockwave of their sound would be felt for decades to come, inspiring generations of musicians and fans alike. As we look back on that fateful March evening, we're reminded of the power of music to transcend boundaries and change lives. In 1955, Elvis Presley was on a roll, but things weren't all smooth sailing. After his electrifying performance in Breckenridge, the excitement began to fade for some of his fans, especially the boys who were used to being the center of attention when Elvis performed. These boys found themselves pushed to the side literally as Elvis and his bandmates took center stage, literally ripping strings off his guitar in the process. Elvis's playing style was wild and energetic. He'd dance like nobody was watching, slapping his bass and letting his guitar scream. It was said that he played so hard, it was like watching a wolf with a hungry growl tearing at his instrument. This kind of rough handling wasn't new. Elvis was known for slamming his guitar so hard it could hurt anyone nearby. This particular night, even the guitars took a beating. Elvis went through guitars of different sizes, leaving them in tatters. But there was a glimmer of kindness amidst the chaos. When Gene Funderburk, a fellow musician, asked if he could borrow a guitar for a quick break, Elvis surprisingly handed over his prized instrument with care. It was as if Elvis was protecting Gene's guitar like it was his own child. After the show, Elvis returned the guitar to Gene in perfect condition, not a scratch on it. Elvis and his guitar had a rough relationship off stage too. The constant travel and rough handling took its toll. His guitars got beat up, especially on the road where they'd rub against his belt buckle, turning them to splinters. Yet despite this, Elvis showed gentler sides too. After a show, he treated himself and a friend to dinner, showing that beneath the wild stage persona, he had a more considerate side. Word of Elvis's antics reached the local newspaper, which ran a headline mocking the situation. The article noted how the boys were more interested in Elvis than the other way around, with one boy even trading a newly autographed picture of Elvis for a meal. This picture, taken by a babysitter who couldn't afford to wait for her pay, would later become valuable, showing how even small moments can hold big worth. Elvis's departure from Breckenridge left a mark not just on the hearts of his fans but also on the local paper, which reported on his departure with a mix of humor and concern. Meanwhile, Elvis himself seemed puzzled by the backlash from the community, questioning why his energy and charisma caused such a stir among the ladies. Years later, Elvis and Seed Foster, who had become friends, continued to share the spotlight, even performing together at the Hillbilly Cat in Breckenridge. Seed eventually moved on to radio, joining other notable DJs at KDAV, an influential station in the music world. In April 1955, as Elvis was making waves, Albert Einstein, a giant in a different kind of wave, passed away. It was a time of change, not just in music but in the world at large. Back in Gainesville on April 14, 1955, Elvis was set to perform at the local baseball field, but it wouldn't be an easy night. Joe Leonard, the promoter, had big plans to showcase Elvis while also giving some exposure to another singer, Frank Starr. He plastered the town with ads and even ordered Elvis's records to sell at the event, trying not to show favoritism. But as Elvis and his band arrived, it was clear the town wasn't ready for the chaos that was about to unfold. The performance at Owl Park Baseball Field was a far cry from the packed high school show in Breckenridge. The crowd was small, fewer than 200 people, and the excitement was lacking. After the show, the empty bleachers and unsold records left both Elvis and Joe Leonard feeling disappointed. Elvis apologized for not bringing in the cash, and though Joe tried to reassure him, Elvis was determined to give the town a free show to make up for it. While Elvis and his bandmates headed to a nearby town to console themselves with drinks and company, the story of that failed show in Gainesville spread, highlighting the challenges of performing in every town and the mixed reactions to Elvis's unique brand of music and charisma. In 1955, a year filled with music, excitement, and some memorable moments, two events featuring Elvis Presley stood out. One was at a high school in Stamford, where Elvis met two girls, Judy and Sue Ann, in a way that would make headlines. The other was at the Big D Jamboree in Dallas, which was a big deal for many aspiring musicians. Let's start with the story of Elvis, Judy, and Sue Ann. It was a normal day for Judy and Sue Ann during a track meet. Bored, they left early for a Coke and spotted a shiny Cadillac parked outside a radio station. Curiosity got the better of them and they followed the car to find Elvis Presley, who was about to perform at their school. Elvis was without a ride home after his show in Stamford, where he had offered to perform for free, showing his kindness and generosity. The girls, intrigued, invited Elvis to join them. On the way back to town, they had a fun ride with Elvis joking around and kissing each girl goodbye. However, rumors spread quickly, and by the next dance, everyone thought Judy had kissed Elvis, causing some jealousy and drama. Elvis even playfully teased Judy's boyfriend, showing his playful side. Now let's jump to Elvis's performance at the Big D Jamboree in Dallas. This place was a big deal for musicians like Johnny Cash and Carl Perkins. It was a radio show turned into a lively event where people danced and enjoyed various music styles. Ed Watt, the promoter, was good at finding fresh talent, and this is where Elvis found his big break alongside other future stars. The Big D Jamboree was special because it showcased a mix of music styles that appealed to many. The venue itself was a wrestling arena, which added an exciting element with its bouncing trampoline-like stage. Here, Elvis was among performers like Johnny Cash and Hank Williams, who later became legends in country music. These events in 1955 marked important moments in music history. Elvis's kindness in Stamford and his charisma at the Big D Jamboree showed the kind of person he was and the impact he would have on music and fans. His willingness to help and his talent caught people's attention, setting him on the path to becoming the king of rock and roll. These stories from his early days remind us of the power of music to bring people together and create unforgettable memories.